Good evening. I'm Tom Waters, your host for the show this evening, and we're so glad to have you with us. I have some outstanding guests for this show, and I know you're going to be very interested in hearing what they have to say. And as I tell you, for every show, be sure to write down all of this information because sometimes we give it so fast, you're not able to get it all. So have a pen and paper handy so you can take all the notes you want. And that way you can follow up on everything that we talk about this evening. And my first guest is somebody I'm very proud to introduce. Her name is Pat Doyle. Pat Boyle.
That is correct.
and Pat is, she's just a wonderful person. We're going to get into and tell you more about Pat in just a second, but I just want to welcome her to the show. Pat, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
We are so glad to have you here this evening. And, you know, the fact that we know each other, and I know so much about you and where you've been, but we have people that are watching tonight throughout Nye County and Clark County, and they don't know all of this. So they're going to be very interested in what you have to say to them this evening.
Well, I certainly hope they will be. And like you said, I hope they're taking notes.
They've got to take notes because this is just so interesting. But first, I want to say that I met Pat because of DOTS, Department of Defense Dependent Schools. And so, Pat, how did we meet? Why don't you tell the audience how we met?
Okay, I'd love to. You know, I love to meet new people. And I was on Facebook one time, and having been a teacher for the DOTS, Department of Defense Overseas Teachers, I saw a post by a group in Phoenix that they were having a gathering of DODS retirees in the Phoenix area.
Okay.
Well, I got to thinking, I can't be the only person in this area that taught for DODS. So I got busy and I contacted a gentleman who is very influential with the yearly convention that DODS has.
Yeah.
And I asked him if he could send me a list of attendees' names and emails that had attended from Nevada, that now live in Nevada. And he did. Well, I sent out emails introducing myself and saying, wouldn't you like to get together? And you were the very first person who responded.
I am so glad to hear that, but I was very interested when I got your message.
Yeah. And then, long story short, we got together, our group. There were 6 or 8 of us with spouses. There might have been 10 at a restaurant. And then one of our people lives in the Red Rock area. And they hosted the second meeting. And we hope to get together again soon. And I've been so fortunate to get to speak to your Rotary group, and then I was so interested to get to come and talk to you here today too. So I appreciate that.
You know, when you mentioned the meeting that we had in the Red Rock Canyon area, I thought that was just fantastic. I've never known anybody that lived in Red Rock Canyon.
Well, I never did either, and I know the owners of that house from way back. I did some partying with them in Augsburg, Germany, and yeah, they worked really hard. They deserved that house.
Oh, absolutely. For everything they said, and just getting a tour of the house, it was just fantastic. And to be in Red Rock Canyon. I didn't know that people lived there. But here we have some people, again, people that were part of the Dodds family, and I have to call us a Dodds family because it is worldwide. As Pat just stated, every year the Dodds family from all over the world get together in a location. We never know what the location is going to be until the banquet, but yeah, we're scheduled already for the next one. I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if I'm going to get to go. I've only gone once, and I quite enjoyed it, but I'll have to see.
Well, I had heard so much about it, and so the first one I went to, I thought, well, I'll go, but I'm not going to do this every year because it's got to get boring or something. We went to the first one, my wife Faye and I, and we fell in love with it. And so we try and schedule it every year, as long as it doesn't interfere with our family reunion, which is just about the same time. And so, no, this is perfect. And we get to see friends from all over.
Well, and I don't know if your audience knows how long you spent in the system.
I only spent 10 years in the system.
Well, I only spent 4.
I spent 10 years in the system, like 2 years as a teacher and then 8 years as a school administrator. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I really did not want to leave, but I wanted to stay at Ramstein. And the director of Dodge Europe said, "No, Tom, I have to move you." And I was going to be going to an Army base, and I, retired Air Force, so I decided, no, I think Pahrump looks a lot better. So I ended up retiring after 10 years and then coming here to Pahrump, Nevada. And I'm originally from Chicago, so the weather suited me just perfectly.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. I spent 2 years in Augsburg, Germany, and then I figured that I had seen enough of Europe, and I had a burning desire to go to the Orient.
Okay.
So I applied for a transfer, and it was fine, but it was just a blanket transfer. It said to Japan. Well, I didn't know until I was just about ready to depart for Japan where my assignment was.
And where was it?
It was Wakkanai on the island of Hokkaido.
I'm not familiar with that at all.
Well, I got a little concerned when I got out the atlas and I couldn't find Wakkanai. I could find Hokkaido, but I couldn't find Wakkanai.
Wow.
Which was as far north on the northern island as you could go. And it was, words escape me as to how the weather, the snow didn't fall beautifully, it blew at you. It was quite something. And I remember I was out walking to school one morning, and there were these poles. And I knew a USO show was coming. And I thought, oh, those poles, they're going to put a banner up welcoming the USO show. So I got to school, I asked somebody about the poles, and they said, no, those poles are to measure the height of the snow.
Okay.
I thought, oh my goodness. And another funny thing about Wakkanai, we could buy the turned-in parkas of the airmen when they left the base. They charged us $3, and it was the hood up, and you zipped it all up, and you could see just your eyes.
Yes.
So I was nervous that I'd fall in the snow. So I dyed my parka purple.
Okay.
I wasn't taking any chances. So that base closed, and I had to pick another spot. So then I went to southern Japan, which was totally different. I mean, big city, gigantic Navy base. So it was very, very different experiences from Germany to northern Japan to southern Japan. But all it did was cement my love of travel. And I haven't looked back since. I mean, I've been traveling ever since I came home.
And we're going to be talking a whole lot about traveling, but one of the things that I think everybody that's listening to this program will know that we're talking about worldwide travel. And we're not trying to sell you on Department of Defense dependent schools, but if you're interested in travel, that's one way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And we, as educators, we were able to do that, and it works. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about any place that we have U.S. military, any place, and we're all over the world for the military, if the military is allowed to have their family with them, they're going to have children in school. That's why we need educators there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And dedicated. And I had taught for 2 years in Arizona before I went to Germany. And You know, I would get my first graders every year, and you have the criers and they won't, Mom won't leave, and that, well, the Dodge kids, they've moved all over the world. They come to school the first day on the bus. They're blasé. I mean, and just a totally different attitudes. I mean, they're just, I found them a joy to work with.
Absolutely. When I look at it, and of course my assignment for Dodge was in Germany, and it started off at Ansbach and then moved up to Kaiserslautern, and just fantastic. And exactly what you're saying about the students, when you have students that talk about, we're going to play basketball in another country, and it's something they do all the time. So when they get back to the States, they're worldwide travelers already.
Yeah. It was, I was fortunate enough to go to school overseas when I was in high school. And we got to live there for 3 years. Well, my freshman year, it was a little iffy if I liked it or not, but then I got used to it. And by my junior year, I became junior class treasurer, and it was just, I would have done anything to be able to stay to have my senior year there. But that it didn't work, so we went back to the same town in Terre Haute, and they were the same stuffy, stuck-up people that hadn't experienced what I'd experienced. And my senior year was, it was very trying for me because of what I'd gone through. I mean,
you know, when we look at all of that, and we're going to have more in our next session, but we're going to be talking about a lot of travels that Pat has done, and we hope we entice you to just think about traveling and traveling the world and seeing some of the things that Pat has seen. Come back and join us in the next session. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. I still have Pat Boyle with us, and we've talked about DOTS, Department of Defense Dependent Schools, and we've talked about the students and some of the travels that we've been on. But Pat has been to so many different places, and I want to let her tell you some of the places she's been, some of the enjoyment she's had as far as traveling, and maybe entice you to want to do what she's doing. And she's going to tell you how to do that. So Pat, just go right ahead and tell us all about it.
okay, you sure you?
I'm ready.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, as Tom said, I have traveled extensively because of being affiliated with DODS. But then when I came home after I finished in Japan, and I got married and all that, once everybody was out of the house, I convinced my husband that we still needed to travel. So we've been all over, and I found about 12 years ago a company called EF Go Ahead Tours. And the EF stands for Education First. They started out as a company where high school and middle school teachers could take their students on various and sundry adventures all over the world. So I looked into that, and I've taken some wonderful trips with them. My first trip with them was to the Galapagos Islands.
Wow. Okay.
And it was phenomenal. We saw sea turtles, we swam with sea turtles. It was, again, I'm at a loss for words. And I've been all over with them for the past 12 years. Matter of fact, I just came back from India. And I'm a little scratchy because getting home was quite an ordeal. 36 hours in the air. Well, no, it wasn't 36 hours in the air. 36 hours in transit to get home. And, but as soon as I get rested up, I'll be packing my bags to go other places. And now, you can do what I do if you care to. You can travel for free if you recruit 6 or more people to go on your trip.
Wow.
So you might say, you know, well, how can this retired school teacher afford to go all over the world like that? Well, my mom didn't raise any dummies. I figured out how to do it on the company's dime. Kind of like Dodds. We traveled on the government's dime.
Yes, we did.
Okay. So I have a few trips lined up, and we're going to show you my website, and my phone number will be there. And here's the part that you might want to write down. If you're interested, seriously contact me. There it is right now. And check out the website. It shows you all of my current tours, and it gives you the prices, and it tells you exactly what each tour entails. And I could help you become a group coordinator. Now, as a group coordinator, I do things such as help my travelers with their flights, help them book their seats. I do a newsletter highlighting all the places that we're going to visit. I had a going away departure meeting right before we went to India, and we had Indian food, and I gave them presents before we left. We were worried about the mosquitoes, so they had mosquito repellent. It was going to be hot and humid, so they got a little mini clothesline and all sorts of various and sundry goodies that I can find having to do with the country that we're going to visit. Okay, so now my next tours, the first one is going to be very easy. South Carolina and Georgia. Okay,
that is easy.
South Carolina, Georgia, it's Charleston to Savannah. And you can see the first page of the brochure there. This one's going to be a fairly simple one. But we're going to see in Charleston, we'll see plantations and gardens, and they should be in their glory in the spring. We'll be there in April. One of my thing that I always look for in a tour is at least for it to have one boat ride. And we're going to have a cruise to Fort Sumter. So for you history buffs, we'll be doing that. And then we're going to go to Beaufort, which is a historic seaside town. And then in Savannah, we'll have a southern dinner with fried chicken and fresh seafood. And there we will have quite a bit of free time. And I'm hoping that we get to do a riverboat cruise. Okay. So I think that would be quite fun. And then my next great big one is to Bali. And some of you might be thinking, oh, I'm getting a little long in the tooth. I don't want to be traveling anymore. But this Bali and Java trip is going to be my 80th birthday, during my 80th birthday year. And I will be upgrading at least to premium economy for those flights. So now this one, to tell you what I think the highlights are going to be, it would take me the whole, well, I'd have to have the next two segments. But we'll be going to a rice farm, as you would think, in Bali. We're going to a monkey farm. We'll be going through a purification ceremony, lots of temples, and quite a few boat rides. And I think the pièce de résistance will be the extension, which will take us to Komodo Island. Wow. Where we will see the Komodo dragons. I'm quite excited about that one. Okay, as I said, I'm upgrading for my flights for that one. And then the last one that I have planned right now, there's going to be others on the books soon, will be in May of 2026 to Ontario, and I think the correct pronunciation is Quebec, I think, rather than Quebec. Okay?
What's the difference in pronunciation? I've only heard Quebec.
I think that's the way the locals pronounce it.
Gotcha.
Quebec. Okay. We live in Nevada, not Nevada.
Yep.
Okay.
Pronunciation means everything.
Yes, it does. And there are going to be quite a few highlights on this one too. After this trip, I will have done the big three with waterfalls. I've seen Victoria,
Oh, okay.
And will see Iguazu Falls in the fall, and I will finally get to Niagara Falls on
Wow.
this trip.
Okay.
And then we'll also be cruising along the St. Lawrence River. One other highlight, the predominantly French-speaking city of Montreal sits on an island in the St. Lawrence River. I'm told it's stunning. It's stunning. So I'd love for you to contact me if you're interested in any of these tours, and especially if you're interested in learning how to go for free. I can help you become a group coordinator. And the Go Ahead catalog is very extensive. I hate to admit I've almost run out of places to go. They're going to have to start putting some new ones in. Bali and Java is new, and I jumped on that as soon as they unveiled that one. So there are a few more places that I still need to go, but I'm ticking those boxes off.
You know, as you started mentioning the different places, I'm thinking everybody out there is writing this down, saying, "Hey, how can I become a part of this?" And it's so easy. You know, this is something I hadn't heard of before, to be able to travel for free. I would love that. And I haven't looked at any cost or anything else of what Pat is talking about, but obviously at this rate, for the travel that she's talking about, I'd be very interested in it.
I'm not surprised.
And I hope you're interested too. And I hope you're writing all this down so you can contact Pat and let her know, look, I'm very interested in travel, and I'd like to maybe add maybe something else, some ideas that Pat hadn't even thought of travel, and she would love to hear that as well. But go ahead and contact her. She's got the information on the screen for you. Be sure to contact her and let her know that you're interested, you've heard about it, and maybe something else. What else would you like to do?
What else would I like to do?
Yes.
Oh my goodness sakes. Where haven't I been? Well, there is a Canadian Rockies train trip
Okay.
that I would like to do. And Cuba is still on my list.
Ah.
So I'd still like to get to Cuba. I would love to go back to Africa, but if I can't do that unless they move the continent closer, because I've only been to one part of Africa.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's a big world out there, and you learn so much by travel, so much.
It is definitely a big world. And I know between active duty and Dodds, I've traveled a lot of the world, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And just listening to Pat talk about some of the travels here, I think is just truly, truly outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I highly recommend it to everybody. I mean, and you get over the jet lag. I mean, you're tired when you get home, but oh, what memories. I mean, India was so fascinating, so culturally different, and our guide was a young man who was so thoughtful and so caring and so well prepared and so happy to share his culture with us. It was just a phenomenal experience, and I've had that same experience in a lot of places.
Well, this is just fantastic. Again, I'm just so thankful that Pat came on the show this evening to tell you all about her travels and the travel that you can have as well. Not only with Dodds, and the Dodds family, we're always going to be a family, and we're going to always talk favorably about Dodds, Department of Defense Dependent Schools. But just to be able to travel the world, enjoy yourself, and I want to thank Pat for being here and telling us all about these travel and these opportunities.
Well, I want to thank you, Tom, for inviting me. I mean, this has been wonderful, a terrific experience. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next session. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. I have a new guest with me for the next 2 sessions. And this is John Watt. And we're going to change the subject from travels to human trafficking. I know it's a big change, but it's somebody that has a lot of knowledge about it, and it's something that we need more people to hear about and understand what's going on. So John is going to explain to us so that we understand the problem and what we can do as part of maybe the solution of helping this situation so that it's not something that's bad for our children, not something bad for our adults, not something bad for our community, and it's not something bad for humanity. That's what John is here to do. So John, just want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
are so glad to have you with us. And John is also a retired Army.
I am.
Hey, so we got to keep got to keep the veterans in there. And being retired Army, he's got a vast background with a lot of information. And John, just tell us not how you got into exactly what it is you're going to be talking about, but how you actually came to Pahrump, or how you came into Nevada, and why are you doing what you're doing?
Okay, well, I moved to Pahrump in '97
Okay.
with my mom and my wife at the time. Then she decided that she wanted to, there was a 14.5-year difference in our ages, so
Okay.
it didn't work out so well. So then in 2005, actually December 2004, the Army called me just before I was marrying my wife and said, "You're no longer retired, you're going to be going to Iraq, orders are en route." Wow. And I said, okay. I told Lori, and Lori said, okay, we're moving our wedding from May to now. Told our pastor at church, and he said, okay. We did a home marriage in the home instead of a big one, and we've been married now for over 19 years.
Great, great.
And that's what brought me to Nevada. And then, of course, like I say, I went away for the Army for a little while. I went to Iraq, I went to Afghanistan, and we retired. I taught down in Tucson and Sierra Vista for a little while.
Okay.
And then my wife decided, hey, you know what? Mom and Dad are getting old. Dad's got Alzheimer's. Let's move home so we can be there to help them. And I'm glad we did that, because I'll tell you, I have the best mother-in-law around. No insult to any of you other ladies that are out there, but I'm sorry, I have the best mother-in-law.
That's beautiful to hear. You don't hear that very often, so that is beautiful to hear.
Yeah. So the way I got involved in human trafficking is I saw someone trafficking when I was in the Army, especially when you would see some of the things that were going on the bases with the nationals that we'd hire from other countries. You would see some of that.
Well, what did you do while you were in the Army?
I was a communications technician,
Okay.
telecom, radios. I started off in fixed communication, working in buildings with no windows. In Korea, I had a 5-minute life expectancy from the beginning of the war. We knew that because you had a peacetime mission and a wartime mission. My wartime mission was to keep one circuit alive for 5 minutes so they could tell the U.S., get word back to the U.S. that we had been attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And we were expected to be dead in place. But,
Yep.
you know, it's a life. But in Korea, I saw a lot of trafficking. You had the bar girls. I was married to my first wife was Korean, and she pointed out some things, children being caused to work instead of getting an education. And they wouldn't be working for their families. They would have been kidnapped or whatever else, or sold. Some of these kids were sold by their families so they could support the rest of the family.
Wow. Okay.
So I experienced it that way. My daughter got trafficked in one form of trafficking. You see these magazines, these kids coming door to door and they're selling magazines. That's actually a human trafficking organization, and I got my daughter away from that. We got her away, got her secured. So she was trafficked in that way for about a year. Mm-hmm. Dad doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to go do this job, and, well, it happened. So human trafficking isn't just about sex, although we'll be concentrating as we're going through here about sex trafficking. you've got three major aspects in trafficking. You have labor, you have sex, and then you have those that are being trafficked for their body parts.
Wow. That's not talked about very much.
No, that's an area I don't know a whole lot about, but you'll see it in the movies. You'll see it on cop shows sometimes. Oh, so-and-so is buying this kidney for $20,000. Well, where did the kidney come from? Or where did that heart transplant come from? What is it? Blacklist had one of the shows was on that specific issue. Mm-hmm. And those are things that really happen, but most of us here in the United States and around the world will sit and watch those movies and say, oh, it's all just fiction, it's just for the story. In reality, there's a lot more to it, and it's really scary when we get into all three aspects.
Some of those shows are just trying to educate us, to let us know what's going on in the world.
Yes.
And that's why you're here today, to educate us some more and let us know it's real.
It is very real. FBI statistics, just for children from age birth to age 18, the day before they turn 18, they're still considered a minor. For minors in the United States, FBI statistics is at 300,000. That's a 3 followed by 5 zeros. Children are trafficked every year. You go on the internet and you look for statistics, you'll find them as low as 25,000 up to 1 million, depending upon what the person or the organization that's putting the statistics out there wants to do. Oh, I want more money from my thing, so I'm going to say it's not as big a problem. I want more money, so I'm going to say it's a bigger problem. I go with this US FBI statistics. I think nobody can know. We cannot put a number on children or adults that are being trafficked. All we can do is, because it's hidden, and nobody's going to say, yeah, I'm trafficked, or I'm trafficking these amount of people, or whatever. You know, you could take a child or an adult that's being trafficked. The trafficker will make an average of $200,000 a year for one victim.
Wow. All news to me. How about you? Had you heard this before? That's why we're having John on the show tonight.
Okay. 20% of children in foster care will be trafficked at some point in their life. More than 32 million tips are received by the cyber tip line in 2022. That was more than 3 million compared to 2021. The results for 2023 are not out yet. We need to know when you see it online, you're seeing something and it's there and the numbers are reported. And you don't, well, I saw this picture of I was surfing porn for whatever reason, you know. I mean, some people are surfing it because they're watching on a date, you know, looking and saying, well, she looks really young. What do I do? Call the cyber tip line. There's a phone number which we'll provide later. You can also contact cybertipline.org or your ISP provider to report that so that those kids can be saved. Sometimes the FBI and internationally, they have the international organization, they can take things that are in that picture and find the child and rescue the child that way.
Got you. Okay.
Nevada currently has a grade of F for its treatment of human trafficking survivors. We have a map of it. Only one state in the United States has considered to have a B. 2 states have a C. The rest have a D or F.
Wow.
And Nevada has an F for how we treat survivors. And there's a lot more information to go on that, and I know we're running out of time here, especially in the first session. But we need to fix that F, and that's done politically. We had 2 bills before the legislature this past time. Both bills got knocked down. Federal law is that a trafficker, once convicted, receives 20 years. In Nevada, 5 years.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the bills that they tried to toughen the law. The other is that these survivors, when they're finally able to get out, they have a criminal record that needs to be knocked out. And Nevada says, no, we're not going to knock it out. I don't care that you were arrested and you were being forced to do this. You're going to have a record follow you the rest of your life. And again, that is something that causes that F. We need to treat the victims as victims and not as criminals. Before we talk about how it is in the rest of the U.S., in Pahrump, we have 3 individuals in particular I want to identify. Judge Kim Judge Kim Wonker, is very much involved in the fight. She goes to conferences around the U.S. and she speaks at various places on the issue. We have 2 detectives and a whole panel of other people and our NCSO. Michael Eisenlawful, along with Joseph Marshall, runs that. Eisenlawful has shared stories with me of some of how he got started in it and the things that he continually has to fight. The Seroptimus Club here in Pahrump hosts an annual, and they're changing it. They're talking about changing it to semi-annual or even quarterly briefings for the entire public to attend on human trafficking because they recognize it as being such a problem.
Now, okay. John, the fact that they do that, and you said they're looking at doing it maybe quarterly, and we're looking at here in Pahrump, but what about, because we have an audience now in Clark County as well as, say, expanded in Nye County. How wide is this?
This problem is nationwide, and it is a real problem. In the next section, because we only have a few seconds here, I'll give you some of the stories that are right here in Nevada before we look at the national issue. Okay.
Well, with that, because Seroptimus does have this presentation, if you contact Seroptimus, they might be able to tell you exactly when the next presentation is going to be. And you'll find out more and more information, and John's going to give you more in the next session, but we want to make sure that you're connected to this, so be sure to write this down or contact John and find out and say, look, I'm just interested in more. Can you tell me more? And he'll let you know exactly where you need to go. But come back and join us in the next session. Welcome back for our final session. Every show, I always hate to say that because things are going so well and you're receiving so much information. I just want you to have time for more. But we have John Watt. He's still here, and he's still talking about human trafficking and all the things that we can do to just be informed. Information is knowledge, and knowledge about what's going on can carry us a long way. So I'm going to ask John to give us more information on what we can do. He's also going to give you some contact numbers. Please write this down. Please take an interest so that we can reduce or eliminate the problem completely. John, what else do you have for us?
Well, let me share a couple of stories from here in Pahrump.
Okay.
But one of the stories, well, actually 2 of the stories, have a connection into Clark County.
Okay.
I was the director of Salvation Army here for about 3 years, a little while ago, and I met a couple of these people through that. One of them was a middle-aged woman, and knowing that I was researching human trafficking, she said, let me share my story. She was 14 years old and was being trafficked on a strip stage in Clark County. She never told me which club it was, and it was several years ago, but at 14, she was being made to strip in front of men and then entertain them. Another had been a student at our local high school, and she was being prostituted while she was a student. Another was trafficked by her own mother. The mother had a drug habit, and at 12 years old, she started making her daughter, entertain men so she could get money for her drugs. And like I say, those stories are connected to wherever. Sergeant Eisenlawful, a detective, shared stories about how he started investigating human trafficking. He was here in Nevada, here in Pahrump, and girls at our high school started receiving nude photos that they had gotten, that he had somehow gotten, and he'd say, I have a lot more, and I will make this public unless you start sending me more pictures. Oh. And he would even direct them on how they were to pose. And ultimately, it led, during the investigation was already going on trying to find this guy, because it was over the internet, to where he required a boy and a girl to have live sex, intercourse, on video, sending to him while he had been watching on a cam as well. So what was he doing with them? We don't know, but that was there. Some of your viewers may remember NBC's program, To Catch a Predator.
Oh, yes.
A program where the police and a volunteer organization would pretend to be young underage male and female boys and girls, and then this predator would come thinking he's going to have sex and find cops waiting for him.
Yep.
Well, Pahrump, and not just Pahrump, and not just in Pahrump, but they also do it in Las Vegas, and they do it around the nation. They continue to run these stings, if you want to call them a sting, pretending to be underage children, and I've participated at one time. And guys will show up, and women will show up to have sex with a minor they know is a minor. In one case here in Pahrump, the guy showed up with a van, and he had shackles connected to his van walls. Fortunately, it was not a 13-year-old girl who went to meet him. It was our own cops.
Yep.
What would have happened to that girl? She would have been taken. Now, movies you watch and things show kids being kidnapped. That is a minor piece of what it is. 48 to 49% of children who are trafficked by their own family. Women who get trafficked are trafficked by their boyfriend or even their husband. Let's take one from way back in history, okay? Linda Lovelace, we can remember her from the porn movie,
yes.
whatever, Deep Throat. Do you know that her husband was holding a gun on her the entire time? Making her do it. She finally got away from her husband, and then they stopped, and then she's tried to get rid of the stuff that was out there. So again, it was forced. If you look at Betty Page and how she started, again, it was done forcefully. These were not people who voluntarily did it. Polaris Project runs a human trafficking hotline, and we'll show you that number towards the end. And it's important, write that number down when it comes. They found, out of the top 100 cities throughout the United States, within the top 20 or thereabouts, 2025, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and Henderson are in the top 2025 cities that they get the reports from.
Wow. These
are phone calls they've received saying, hey, help me, and being able to open up cases and rescue people from that. Las Vegas, Clark County. Now, Pahrump is too small to be having that kind of numbers being reported in. We have to look at, Las Vegas, the greater Las Vegas area, 2 million people, of course. But that's pretty high. And then we add, for Nevada, Reno's in that same top 100. So that's pretty nasty, if you ask me.
So Nevada needs to get their act together.
Yes. Okay. Nevada has some real issues. But before we do that, I want to show the cyber tip line reports that are received. These are tips, and I mentioned it earlier, where you can take and make a phone call if you find something online. You have in child pornography, the numbers from 2020, 2021, and 2022 are showing on your screen. 31,900,000 for child pornography. Come on down till we have an online enticement of children for sexual acts. It went from 37,800 to 44,000, and in 1 year it jumped over to 80,000 enticements of children for sex acts on the internet. Unsolicited material being sent to children. Notice it went from 3,500 to 5,000 to 35,000. I don't know what the reports numbers are going to look like for 2023. That report's not out yet. But this is horrible. Okay, you look at the laws in Nevada. 2 laws that need to be changed. We had legislation presented to the legislature this past year. You know, it meets every 2 years. We're getting ready to vote for our legislatures again, folks. It went up, and they said, hey, number 1, let's toughen the law, federal law. If the person is convicted in federal court, they receive 20 years to life.
Okay.
Nevada law, 5 years. The second one, and I mentioned it in the first broadcast, or the first section I did. Again, these women and men, boys and girls, men and women are being trafficked, and yet they're carrying a life sentence with them because of some crime that they were convicted of. Oh, you're convicted of prostitution. Well, it doesn't matter. You were forced to do this. Okay, let's go ahead in the time that we've got up here. Before we run out of time, let's talk about how to do underage report. It'll be flashed up here. You see that, you're surfing for whatever reason, you see it, you get an advert for it, whatever. You think that person looks underage, you're not sure, hey, report it. Let the cops figure it out. That's how you get them right there. Okay, what if you are being trafficked or you suspect somebody is? Call the human trafficking hotline. It takes just a few moments. They'll ask you some questions to try to find out where it's at so they can try to rescue the individual, help the individual. That number, 888-373-7888, or use your cell phone and text info to 233-73C. They'll come back and ask you for more information. That way the information's out there and rescues are being able to be conducted. Let's remember, as I said in the first broadcast, 300,000 children. There's so much more. And it's like, okay, what do I bring? I wanted to bring this piece in. Just this last April, of course, I said about that, when the first bill was a Republican and a Democrat sponsored it. The second bill, 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat sponsored it, and they're being disapproved. We need to get the right people into our state legislature, fix the laws in Nevada. It's a national problem, but we can work on our own state. We need to make that better.
If we can encourage our legislatures to listen to the information that John is giving us today, encourage the legislators to take these laws seriously and go ahead and put some teeth into them, and that will help.
I mean, you've got the movie, what was it, the Jim Caviezel was in, and he takes at the end of that movie and he speaks to the audience for about 5 to 8 minutes about the problem in the United States. We are one of the biggest users and supporters of human trafficking. Even though we say it's against our laws and everything else, but we're not doing enough to stop it. There's a lot of reports. You can go online. Go to Polaris Project, or just put in Polaris Human Trafficking. They are the biggest national organization. Another national organization is In My Backyard. And again, those are organizations that are fighting it. There's a lot of other organizations. We have one centrally located in Las Vegas. I don't remember the name of it right now, but I hope I can come back and maybe talk some more about this.
You know, it's unfortunate that we have such short time to try and cover such a vast, a lot of information. But hopefully you've taken some phone numbers, you've written some of this information down, you've listened to what John has presented to us this evening, and we want to make sure that you are aware that all of this is possible as long as you get involved and you can help make this thing go away. I want to thank John for being here this evening, and thank you for listening.